Good evening and welcome back to Prime of Midlife. It's Tuesday evening, and this evening Patrick is horrified and he feels vindicated because his Mr. Kipling cakes were on the TV because they went from £1 to £2. Excuse me. So, yes, Patrick is now horrified at the rate of inflation. Um, in saying that, is it going to change much? They're expecting we get the new inflation rate tomorrow, I think, and they're expecting it to go down from 8.7 to 8.2. However, they've expected falls that haven't happened before. They are saying that the inflation rate in food has started to drop, but I wouldn't like to bet on that. I certainly wouldn't like to bet on a lot of prices coming down because, as we talked about in the live, things like you're going, oh, Lurpak's back down to £2.75 for the Lurpak spreadable. That's for 400 grams, not 500. We got Patrick to go and check the packet that him and I had bought earlier that day just to make sure. The caramel wafers that we normally buy, they had packs of 8 in Asda's, and I was looking in Food Warehouse and I was like, oh, they're much cheaper. That's because it was a pack of 6. So shrinkflation is definitely a big, big thing. I also was looking in farm foods when I was there a couple of weeks ago. They had a huge, huge mesh, like net bag of red onions. I think it was £3.49 and it was for 5 kilos of onions. And I was like, oh, that might actually be worth it. I need to go and, check the prices. But then I thought, I had looked at them when I was there and I was like, oh, that should be a good deal. However, the red onions that were in the big net bag were tiny. So the time it would have taken me to peel them and prepare them would be substantially more than if I'd got the bigger onions. And time is the one thing I struggle with. So I'm sort of betwixt and between. I can't decide whether, it's a great deal for the food, but do I want to give up at least 2 hours to peel these onions? I'm not sure I do. So unless anyone has an easy way to peel small onions, if you do, please tell me, because it was a good deal money-wise, I'm pretty sure. It's just the time of peeling the onions. And that, for a lot of us, is a big difference in how cutting our costs, we reach a finite limit because, if you look at all the depression cooking, the war cooking, everything, as I've said before, it was, cook things on a low heat for many hours. Well, with the cost of energy, we can't really do that. We're now looking at doing it differently. What we're doing is, where can we cut our electricity costs? How can we cook things quicker? Excuse me. And one of those ways is the air fryer. A lot of people are now using air fryers, they're using pressure cookers, they're using microwaves because they cook things quicker. And you get a lot of people even saying, look, instead of boiling up your potatoes before you put them in the air fryer to roast, stick them in the microwave. It takes less electric. You've got them the equivalent of parboiled, especially if you're using the baby potatoes, because you don't need to boil them very much and you don't need to peel them or anything. In fact, you don't need to peel most potatoes nowadays. So that is less electricity than we would normally use. And that it's a different way of thinking from all the old cookbooks where it was, frugal living and save money on your cooking. It was all the ingredients were cheaper and you could cook them for longer. Whereas now that's the last thing we need. We need something that's going to, if we can half the cooking time, that's what we're looking for. If we can microwave it, then that's what we're looking for. And if we can get Mr. Kipling cakes down in price again, Patrick will be very happy. The other thing I was looking at today is just, especially when I was speaking to Kathleen, it's like, what what do I think I should teach her that I have learned through prepping? And the main thing, no matter what I look at, most of it, apart from like cutting my electricity and stuff, food wise, the biggest thing I have learned to do, the biggest thing I use now that I didn't do before, is preserving food. So whether it's dehydrating, whether it's canning, water bathing, making jam, making chutneys, anything like that, it's preserving food, reducing my food waste to the absolute minimum. Even when you get to the end of a loaf of bread, I will leave the slices sitting out to harden up and then make breadcrumbs. Do you know, anything you can do like that to save food waste, give you extra food left over, etc., etc. That seems to be the main thing that I have learned since I started prepping. And I did start the list with I have learned how to make jam and how to make chutneys and make bread, and I can do this. And then when I read the list, it is basically I am preserving food and I am reducing my food waste. And I think doing that is one of the biggest money savers that we can do. So, yeah. Keep your jars, keep your polythene bags that your bread comes in, use them as freezer bags, use them to store things in, and preserve and reduce the food waste. Because after all this time prepping, that's basically what it comes down to. Many different ways of doing it. Some are easy, some are not so easy. But there is a lot each of us can do to just help us reduce spending a bit by reducing our waste and learning how to preserve. So yeah, that's my thoughts for today. So I am going now to go and have my cup of tea and sit and relax. I'll catch you later.